Could a big-time move be coming for the Minnesota Vikings during this NFL free agency period? Well, Ben Goessling, very tapped-in beat reporter for Minnesota, said the Vikings will be pretty aggressive in the guard market during free agency and will make it a priority. Sure, that put a smile on a lot of you guys' faces just hearing that. So we'll talk about that on today's show. But before we do so, if you guys want the Minnesota Vikings to make a splash this season in free agency, let's send a message to the front office. Hit that thumbs up icon. I put the goal on today's show as 500 likes. So if you guys could, go right down there, right below the video, tap that thumbs up button, see if we could cross over 500 likes if you guys want the Vikes to go big in free agency. So this is what Ben Goessling had to say on the Vikings' upcoming free agency period. He said, I think they'll be pretty aggressive for players like that. Talking about Trey Smith. I think they're going to be aggressive at guard. He's probably at the top of the guard market, which will be expensive, but I think they're going to make a big priority of going after a guard. And I think they will have a lot of interest in getting a guy like Trey Smith in here. So I would expect they'd be involved if he makes it to the market, which he might, because the Chiefs have other guys to sign. And I guarantee you, everybody watching this right now is having the same reaction I'm having, and that just being this. Cue up the SpongeBob meme on this one. I need it. I need it like I need air if I was living under the sea. Like, truly, I can't, put more emphasis on this. If the Vikings are able to land Trey Smith or one of these top free agent guards, it would be awesome. Now, I was originally saying maybe the Vikings could go plug and play at the offensive guard spot. You got guys like Brandon Scherff, Kevin Zeitler, guys you could just plug in on one-year deals, and then you go big at the cornerback or the defensive line position. But if they're going all in on offensive guards or in free agency, I would not be upset whatsoever. So let's just dive into it. 5 Vikings offensive line free agent targets, and all of these are at the interior of the offensive line. Number 1 being up, Trey Smith. This is going to be, I promise you, if you guys go look at any other content creator or anybody else here at Chat Sports who covers another team and has a need at the interior of the offensive line, they will all be talking about Trey Smith. And, Spotrac, they have his projection for his next contract at 4 years, $82 million. Just to give you guys some, something to go off of here, Robert Hunt reset the guard market last year in free agency, signing a 5-year, $100 million deal, $20 million per year, assuming Trey Smith would just get $1 or $2 million more than that. But let's just say the Vikings, like right here, 4 years, $82 million. I'm doing that in a heartbeat. I could even see the Vikings giving them 4 for $90 or maybe even 4 for $100, depending on how desperate they are. But I think Trey Smith, undisputed, a top 10 offensive guard in the National Football League. And this past season for the Kansas City Chiefs, he's been good. I mean, allowing 0 total sacks on the season from the interior, considering all the good defensive linemen in the AFC. It is an awesome stat for him, but his overall PFF grade, 78.8. He's also only allowed 5 hits on the quarterback, did have 9 penalties this past season, but this is the big fish. This is the guy that the Minnesota Vikings and all of these other teams are going to be really trying to get this year in free agency. And Trey Smith, like if you sign him on that 4-year, $82 million deal, I think that would be an absolute steal for the Minnesota Vikings. So again, if it's not Trey Smith, it could be some of these other guys out there. We'll talk about a guy like Drew Dalman here in a second, but I still think guard, considering how weak that guard position is for the Vikings with Ed Ingram and Dalton Risner, Ingram's probably going to get cut. Risner's probably going to walk in free agency. Offensive guard is definitely a massive need for Minnesota. But what about the center spot here? Now, we're going to assume the Vikings cut Garrett Bradbury. You save around $5.2 million, and we'll talk about Bradbury here in a little bit. But if the Vikings do let Bradbury go, Drew Dalman's perfect. I mean, he's 26 years old. He's hitting the prime of his career. He was actually the fourth highest graded offensive lineman according to PFF center this past season with a 78.8 overall grade. Great in the run blocking department, 79.8. Great in the pass blocking department, 67 overall grade. Pretty solid for a center in the National Football League, and only had 3 penalties on the season. So Drew Dalman, he is hitting this real peak of his NFL career. And how nice would it be just to solidify the center for the next 4 years for J.J. McCarthy? I would absolutely love it. Considering, Bradbury, do you want J.J. dealing with him? That's a huge topic of conversation. We'll see how it plays out. But Spotrac has Dalman getting a 4-year, $46 million deal. A lot for a center. But again, it's almost one of those things with the Vikings. When was the last time the Vikings had a solid interior offensive line. Probably be 2009 with that Brett Favre team. Are you going to overpay for a guy like Drew Dalman just to shore up that position? I'm sure Kwesi's thinking about it, but to connect this back to Garrett Bradbury, the Vikings do save $5.2 million if they cut him in free agency. If they cut him, then I will be pretty much everything would indicate to me that they will sign a center. They're not just going to promote one of the backups to that center position. So that's going to be a huge domino to fall as well in terms of how the Vikings attack the center position. But we'll get to 3 more names here in a second. But I want you guys to just give me one. Name a free agent you want the Minnesota Vikings to sign this offseason. Pretend you're GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and you got your big board up. Who is the number 1 name at the top of your list? Give me that name down below in the comments section. Now we'll dive into those 3 names here in a sec, but first, got to give a massive shout out to my favorite sponsor here at Vikings Now, and that is PrizePicks. Now, if you guys download the PrizePicks app today and plug in promo code CLNS, you guys will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, what is PrizePicks? PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. 1,000 times your cash at PrizePicks. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. And speaking of PrizePicks, actually hooking you guys up for the big game this weekend between the Chiefs and the Eagles, where 1 Patrick Mahomes passing yard will get you 1 win on PrizePicks. So make sure you include this in all of your lineups. I know I'm going to be doing so before the big game this Sunday. And also make sure you guys download that PrizePicks app today. Plug in that promo code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. Plug in promo code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. But massive shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, let's kick it back to the guard spot. My favorite name in the National Football League, Willie Fries of the Indianapolis Colts, offensive guard, was dealing with injuries this past season, so he was in and out of the lineup, but this dude is a mauler, and there's something about those Colts interior offensive linemen that I just love so much. So what does Spotrac has his contract projection at? 4 years, $57.25 million, with only $30 million of that guaranteed. The way they set it up on Spotrac, you could have an easy out after year 2. So a guy that's dealt with injuries in the past and was injured this past season, it's a good out to have. But man, when he was healthy this past year, Willie Fries was one of the best offensive guards in the National Football League. Now, yes, only played in 268 snaps, but a PFF grade of 86.9. Pass block, solid. Run block, fantastic with an 84.9 grade. Only had 1 penalty in 268 snaps. But, this guy's a mauler. I think also, if the Vikings go the Willie Fries route over the Trey Smith route, and maybe they draft an offensive guard in the first round like a Tyler Booker, I think the Vikings could really shift to being a run-first offense. And that's still something I have been thinking about this offseason, is maybe we could see a whole different look of this Vikings offense, cater the J.J. McCarthy a little more, because this past year it was an air raid attack with Sam Darnold pushing the ball down the field. But, we saw once the postseason came around, wasn't too effective, so maybe they could change it, get some, ground and pound offensive linemen in the building, and Willie Fries is the definition of that. But we're going to close out the offensive line free agent target talking about 2 guys who could just be plug-and-play options. So let's just say Trey Smith, Drew Dalman, Willie Fries, like some of these big-name offensive guard free agents. Let's just say they decide to sign elsewhere, or they re-sign with their team, or the Vikings, head a different direction in free agency and sign a different guy. Kevin Zeitler would be a great option. And the reason I love Kevin Zeitler is this guy is just he's older, obviously, but you could get him on just a 1-year deal. Spotrac has his contract projection at a 1-year, $6 million deal. So this would just be a plug-and-play guy. And if you do go this direction for Kevin Zeitler, you could also just have Dalton Risner re-sign him, and he'll be your kind of swing interior offensive lineman, because these guys are older, have dealt with injuries in the past. So you could have Risner. He can play left guard. He can play right guard. I don't hate the idea of just going plug and play at the offensive guard spot. And then you have Kevin Zeitler, just filling in for 1 season. And, at 35 years old last year, Kevin Zeitler was just a badass guard for the Detroit Lions. I mean, he graded out incredibly well according to PFF, and he was healthy the whole season. Played in over 1,000 snaps. Had a PFF grade of 86.8. This dude still has it. And think about this. 2 penalties in over 1,000 snaps. That's just fantastic stuff from Zeitler. But as we know, interior pressure has been, the Achilles heel of the Vikings, and we know, especially with the Kirk Cousins days, doesn't handle interior pressure too well. No quarterback does. And if you want to make J.J. McCarthy's life easier, get some of these big boys. And also, I wouldn't hate, having a veteran at that offensive guard spot could also, teach some of the younger guys on the roster. But another veteran here, Brandon Scherff. Again, same thing with Kevin Zeitler, same boat. You would sign him on a 1-year deal. He'll be a plug-and-play guy. Obviously, a whole different situation compared to a Trey Smith or a Willie Fries. But Brandon Scherff, same deal, damn near as Kevin Zeitler. I'm pretty sure Spotrac just had it at a 1-year, $6 million deal with $5 million guaranteed. I think that's a steal for him. And, let's just say, for example, Cowboys defensive tackle Osa, not even going to try to pronounce his last name here, but we talked Odigizua. There we go. Osa Odigizua. Like, the Vikings are clearly interested in him. Let's just say they pay him $20 million per year. Then you can't allocate your funds to the offensive guard spot. I would love the idea if you just had both of these veterans, Scherff, Zeitler, and then you had Dalton Risner just filling in. I think it's a great call. But again, over 1,000 snaps. Stayed healthy this whole season. Did not have the year that Zeitler had. But I also do believe offensive guard, a lot of your play has to do with the guys around you too, and Scherff obviously not having great offensive tackles or a great center in Jacksonville compared to what the Lions had with Penei Sewell and Frank Ragnow. So I think Scherff still has a lot of good ball left to be played. 33 years old, older, veteran option, but still plug-and-play guys. Even though if we miss out on Trey Smith, do not hate the idea of either of those two guys. But you guys let me know, should the Vikings go all in during the free agency period? Are you ready to sell the farm? Give away every single cent. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no down below in the comment section. Also, you guys can hit me up on Twitter. That's the handle right there, @PatSieps. Give me a follow over there, and I'll give you guys a follow right back. We'll see you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes.